May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be acceptable, O Lord, our Redeemer. Amen. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. Not one thing came into being. This reading from John, 8 verses at the beginning of John, that take us to the beginning of the beginning, remind us of our creation story, has so many sentences in these 8 verses that just ground you in the most important parts of our faith, that I highly recommend that if you're feeling unhinged as a follower of Christ, or as a child of God, or just a human living in this world, pick this up. It's wonderful that it's at the very beginning of John because it's easy to find. Because it reminds you who you are in the universe of God's world. It reminds you of how insignificant things are that come at us every day that seem so important, and how utterly significant you are to the Creator of everything. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. All things, including all the things we don't even know, came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. And this warms us up as we hear it, because we're like, we know what that light is. That light is Christ. Christ, the Word, the Logos in Greek times, just that attempt to understand who this is, this God that arrives on earth with us and existed when God was breathing over the darkness, speaking the world into being, present at all time, came to be with us. That light was in the world, and the world came into being through him. Sometimes you get into the detail of life and you think, what is going on? What is with these politicians? Why are they building streets this way? I know for sure yesterday at my family reunion, I was discussing how driveways are being built. You know, really getting down to the details of what's wrong in the world. We can find things that can aggravate us and make us crazy. But really, John 1 takes us back to the big things. And I find that when you get focused on the big things, all those little things become clearly little things. They can really agitate and aggravate you. Untrustworthy leaders, things like that. But when you get into the scriptures, God's telling us that's part of living in a human world. It's not unexpected. It's kind of like Lego pieces on the floor of a house with children. They're going to be there. You're going to step on them, and it's going to be painful. If you've ever had the experience as a parent, usually you don't receive that experience well. You're mad about it, and someone gets yelled at. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. It's got nothing to do with the little person who probably left it there's grand wonderfulness. So much of what we lament about in this world are pieces of Lego on the floor, which we're trying to avoid most of the time, but sometimes they can cause us some significant pain. We try to figure out how to clean these problems out of our way or turn them into something useful. But we want to remember always, what is the big picture? What are we doing here? Who are we in this world? What is our purpose? We are created by the creator of the universe on purpose, with intention, into the exact person that we are, with purpose. The readings today, I believe, draw us to the whole idea of beginnings, new beginnings. Our whole lives continue to draw us into new beginnings. It's graduation season. You'll see all kinds of kids graduating from different things. Our nephew's graduating from grade 8. He's very excited about that. You know, we've got lots of kids graduating from university and people graduating from all kinds of things. It's new beginnings, but sometimes when you get past those notable new beginnings, you forget that when you hit something that's difficult, it is the sign of a new beginning. And we don't always want new beginnings. Visiting Patrick Ryder in the PICU, which is pediatric ICU, you see this little person and all of a sudden a whole family has a new beginning. Nobody wanted it. Nobody asked for it. But now they have it. And everything changes in a family when one is going through something hard. Everybody's going through it. But it changes them. It changes the perspective, it changes their understanding of the world, from the 3-year-old all the way up to the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, seeing all the different people arriving and having the impact of a little one being in crisis who's doing so much better now. Thank God. You know, a mother's prayers. God active. Clearly active, and a family feeling it. That is a beginning, a new beginning. Or is it a reminder of the beginning? It won't be easy. Beginnings don't always mean an easy path. I think what we're being called to remember is that wherever we are, whatever we're faced with in our life, whatever sharp pains we may have that remind us of the things around us we have to attend to, whatever beginnings we're forced into, to remember that at the beginning is the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God and is God. There's never an end to the creation. Your creation story continues and continues and continues. And I'd be willing to say that it begins to fully blossom when we leave this place. I think that's when it really takes off. But we won't know till we get there. So my prayer for you today is, when you're being forced into a beginning, or when you're in one that's really difficult, to remember that beginning is tough, but you're not alone. I think more than anything at the beginnings is where you find God. Because that's what God does, create. Out of nothingness or chaos. Amen.